Um, that that should have a little bud on it, and that's now stuck in my ear. That's not good. Ugh. Huh. Anyway, back in you go. So we're just after Summer Games Fest and a Sony State of Play, and guess what? We've got two more 5v5 PvP hero shooters on the horizon. Yeah, that was kind of my reaction too. And while I think that multiple games of similar genre can definitely coexist, there's too many of these, man. There's too many hero shooters. Just to list a few, you have Overwatch, Paladins, Valorant, kind of Apex Legends. It's a little hero shootery, but it's not, the 5v5. In the failure bracket, you have stuff like Battleborn, Dirty Bomb, Gundam Evolution, Paragon, Lawbreakers. And now the most recent ones we can add are Marvel Rivals, Sony's new venture in Concord, and Xbox's recently announced Fragpunk. And I've never dived into this genre, but I'm tired of it. But you know what I don't tire of? Is you clicking the like and subscribe button and maybe leaving a comment. I don't get tired of it, but sometimes I cringe at myself at having to do it. Now, one of the main reasons that I don't like this genre of game, these hero shooter games, is because a lot of them are live service games, and I've said it a million times before, live service games are bad, and I don't like them. But in the case of, say, Concord, Overwatch, Paladins, it just feels like the same thing with a different skin. They're all doing the same thing. They could all be the same game, just slightly different characters. You're just 5v5 in an arena, fighting the other team. There's no, additional story. There was meant to be a single player Overwatch campaign, but I feel like even across these different games, these characters just run into each other. Oh, there's a normal enough character that you use for fighting, and they're fun, and they've got maybe a few quips. Oh, there's a sniper who's stealthy and serious, and maybe a little bit sexy. There's a heavy weapons guy whose character is just big. He's big, he's a big guy. And then there's maybe a support person who's kind of quippy, but also says things that are eccentric, but that's kind of fun because they say it because it's so eccentric. Oh, and what's that? The game was also announced or released with a CGI trailer to show you how fun and colourful and exciting the world is. Even though there's literally no story, there's just the bare bones of oh, you're a hero group, you're a gun runner, I don't think that's even it. It's something stupid in Concord. It's you're a gun man. I can't remember what it is. It's weird that they've done that, right? That they have CGI trailers to announce these things sometimes. Presumably because the gameplay is, just running and gunning, which is fine, but also it's just because that's all the game is. It's just go in and shoot the whole time. So showing that very repetitive gameplay loop isn't really going to pull you in, so they have to make these Disney Pixar type of animations to try and pull you in to be oh wow, isn't this such a fun world, such a fun universe? And then you get into the game and it's just, oh, it's this. It's just multiplayer matches and maybe some loot boxes and some skins. That's it. It kind of reminds me of back in 2008, 2009, just after Call of Duty Modern Warfare released, and every game was oh shoot, we gotta become a gritty military shooter. We gotta are we in the World War II setting? Take it out of that, make it Modern Warfare. And while back then games were trying to cash in on looking similar to each other, you have all your gritty military shooters. You have the yellow piss filter over everything. It was a great time. And I don't think that's really changed, except developers and publishers have kind of realized ooh, wait, this 5v5 PvP game, loot boxes, skins, money, 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 live service, we got a season. And I think Sony and Microsoft have already shot themselves in the foot a little bit with these two newly announced 5v5 PvP hero shooters. That's way too long to say. I think Sony and Microsoft have shot themselves in the foot with these new hero shooters because these games are solely PvP multiplayer based, and yet they're not launching them on every platform. I feel like a lot of the reason of why these hero shooters have stuck around so much is because they've been quite prevalent on a lot of various platforms. PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and in some cases ported to Switch. Concord seems to be only launching on PC and PlayStation, which is cutting out the Xbox player base. I'm fairly sure that I've forgotten the name of the other one. I can't even remember the other one. Such a forgettable name. Ah, Fragpunk. That's the other one. All right. I'm fairly sure that Fragpunk is only going to launch on Xbox and PC, which is going to cut out the PlayStation player base. So imagine if there's a group of people who all have multiple platforms that they play on together, and they're looking for games on the consoles that offer crossplay on the multiplayer games. Then that's immediately going to knock those games out of the ranks because, hey man, I really love Concord, I want to play it with you. Oh, you're on a different console from me? Oh shoot, can't play it with you. Alright, let's go back to Overwatch, let's go back to Apex, let's go back to Call of Duty. Like, you gotta play ball a little bit here somewhere, Sony and Microsoft. So not only do I think these publishers are kind of dumb in leaving out a whole player base to include in their game, I just hate these types of live service games anyway, that just want to keep you playing the same game the whole time, to keep you trying to buy more skins, or to keep you trying to learn the map or do whatever the hell, as if there aren't a dozen other games trying to do the exact same thing at the exact same time. And I just don't think it's a good idea to have a game that you want to keep your player base engaged in the whole time. No one's going to play the same game forever. I guess people have been playing Call of Duty for like 15 years straight, and that hasn't really changed. And look, the general interest in games changes over time, and trends happen. Like I mentioned, piss filter games. There's so many options available already within the same genre, especially with stuff like Overwatch having a big jump ahead in the competition compared to these new games. And if you introduce more and more of these games, it's just going to be harder for each of them to individually stay alive with enough of a player base to actually support the games. And in a year when there's already been so many people laid off and so many studios closed already, these developers are under a lot of pressure for these games. And if these games are just going to be churned out and keep on failing, we're going to see a lot more people fired and laid off, and that sucks. So I think it'd be interesting to keep an eye on some of these studios who are developing these games to see what happens if these games are financially successful or a financial failure.